When you come to Boston Children's Hospital for your first visit for bottom surgery, you'll see me first. I'm going to come in and say hi. My name's Maria. I'm your nurse, and I use pronouns she, her, hers. And just sort of explain that you're going to meet a lot of folks on your visit today, not to be overwhelmed, not to try to remember everyone or everything. We're just here to give you more information and to answer your questions. After that, our social worker will come in with our physician's assistant, and they'll sit down and go over your medical history, your behavioral history, get your goals for surgery to help you figure out what type of bottom surgery would be best for you and to meet the goals that you are looking for. After that, Dr. Gunor and myself will come in to wrap up the consult, go over surgery in detail, and talk about what to expect after surgery, what kind of help you might need, how long you'll be here, and really sit down and go through your question list. And if you don't have questions, we sort of know what patients come in asking, and we just sort of give you all that information. And then if you go home and forget everything, you can call us the next day, you can email us, we're very accessible, and we'll just sort of help navigate the process for you because it can be a lot.
And Chris, forgive me for being such a cynic, but when it comes to any story, I subscribe to the mantra of follow the money. And I would assume that at these hospitals, such as the one in Boston, there are big bucks to be made here by this kind of gender reassigning surgery. Am I on the right track here?
Yes, this is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. Double mastectomy might cost $10,000, but what they call bottom surgeries, which are the euphemistic terms for castrations or phalloplasties, where they carve out the forearm of a girl and fashion it into a neo-phallus. These might cost about $40,000, could be more. There's always complications as well, so then you're adding on to the tab there. And just these drugs alone, like these puberty blocking drugs, some of these kids will get an implant. And that implant for a year costs about $40,000 US. So over the course of their lifetime, because these kids are being turned into lifelong medical patients, forever reliant on pharmaceuticals, it might cost upwards of $1 million to change to attempt to change the sex of a child. Of course, you can't actually change the sex of a child. All they're doing is destroying the future sexual function of these kids, reducing their dating pool to zero, eliminating their chance of having a family. And what we see from all previous studies with adults who transitioned, suicide rates actually peak 7 to 10 years after the fact. So none of this is helping anything. It might help some of these kids in the very immediate term feel better because they finally got what they've been obsessing about. But this is just child abuse, pure and simple.
So, Chris, it would seem to me that the almighty buck is trumping ethics. It's trumping morals. The Hippocratic Oath means to do no harm. It seems from what you've just said, this is doing a hell of a lot of harm. Are there any doctors in the medical community that are saying, no, this is wrong, this shouldn't be done? Or I guess, are they silenced because I would imagine there might be an environment, given that you said this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, that you better not rock the boat because this kind of trans surgery is pretty good for the bottom line of the hospital.
There are some doctors speaking out, but like many people in all walks of life, with this ideologically crazy world, people are at risk of losing their jobs if they speak up against this. So most doctors are silent. A lot of them don't even know what's going on because you've got just a few doctors in these gender clinics performing all these ghoulish experiments on kids. And most doctors are just busy doing their own thing. But I went to the American Academy of Pediatrics convention back in October down in Anaheim. I talked to a couple hundred doctors while I was out on the street there. 90% of them agree with me, but they're all afraid to speak up.
Jeez.
And the American Academy of Pediatrics is rejecting calls from doctors within their own body to conduct a systematic review of this because they know that if they actually look at the evidence, this whole thing falls to pieces. And we do have countries like Sweden, England, Finland, and now Florida, where their medical boards have reviewed all the evidence, found there is none to support it, and they've done away with this practice. But in the United States and in Canada especially, having them look at actual science, we know from COVID and other things as well, is not going to happen right now because these people are all ideologically driven.
That's an excerpt from my show every night. It's called The Ezra Levant Show. That's me, Ezra Levant. You can see the whole thing behind our paywall. Well, there's a lot of goodies behind there. I do a show every weeknight. My friends Sheila Gunn Reid and David Menzies and Nat and Kat have their shows too. You get a ton of content for just $8 a month. There's so much in there you won't find anywhere else. Go to rebelnewsplus.com.